Hi, everyone. We're back with another masterclass. And this week, we are going to be talking about something that I know is very close to your heart, because I know that this can cause a lot of problems. And it's all to do with prepositions. This week's masterclass is all about particular verb, right? It's three particular verbs, in fact, and a problematic preposition, isn't it, Alistair? That's the key here, because most Spanish speakers will always be tempted to use a particular preposition with these particular verbs, right?
Yeah, I hear it all the time, and it's the same problem as many things, is that you often cover in your Spanglish class, or sessions, I should say.
Yeah.
Because in Spanish, these three verbs and many verbs take the a preposition in Spanish, so it would be to in English, and before an object, so before a person, if you like. And therefore, a Spanish speaker thinking in Spanish is very likely, and it happens a lot. I would say the majority of the people I coach, they put in that to, translating the a in Spanish before the object, which is the person.
Absolutely.
So it's very common. I have to always say, no, it's a direct object, meaning, that you don't need a preposition. It's the verb and the person.
Exactly.
There's nothing in between. You don't need to add anything, but it's quite difficult for Spanish speakers to do that, because you've got to, think in a different way.
Reprogram your brain, right? You've got to reprogram your brain.
Change the chip, as they say in Spanish, but not in English.
But not in English.
I just did, but people will know what I mean.
Yeah. So they've got to change the chip, but not really.
The mindset.
The mindset. They've got to change their mindset. They've got to change the way they think, right? So let's go through those three key verbs that are so problematic. And they are simple. They're really, really simple.
Simple, everyday, common
words. So simple. But we get this even from, we hear this
high-level students.
Yeah, we hear this from B2, C1. It doesn't really matter. I hear it all the time. So
exactly.
Let's go through those three verbs. The first one being call, and I think this for me is probably the one that is the really common one. It's that I hear it all the time. So like, I will call to him. I will call to him. I will call to him.
Yeah.
Right.
Or somebody called to me. No. Yeah.
That's also
I have to call to my boss.
Yeah.
Because in Spanish is llamar a alguien.
Yeah. Exactly.
Yeah. I vaguely remember when I studied Spanish many years ago, briefly, I self-taught from a book. So I never had a Spanish teacher, but I did use a book of grammar. And it explained this, what they called it, the a personal. So the personal to.
Sure. Yeah.
But in Spanish, very often with these verbs like llamar, if you then llamar, so you call a person, you need to put this to.
Yeah.
And there lies the problem.
Lies the problem.
With many, many verbs in Spanish, take that or this personal to, if you like, before a person. Yeah. Now in English, the problem in English, sometimes we do have the to and sometimes we don't.
Yeah.
And there's no real, reason. There's no explanation to go, well, with these verbs, we don't put anything. And in this one, maybe we do.
Yeah.
But the fact that you're talking it's about a person is irrelevant. It's, doesn't matter.
Absolutely.
And this is where it's difficult. So, because it confuses people when I'm saying, no, don't put the to. And then they'll use another verb that we won't go into. We can look at this maybe in another masterclass, where in Spanish, they don't have the to. And I say, oh, sorry, in this one, you need the to.
That's
you just told me I didn't need to. Depends.
Yeah.
Depends which verb you're talking about.
That's true.
To make it complicated and keep teachers in a job.
Well, that's true. I mean, I suppose the point here is that, and part of this challenge today is that process of changing our mindset, changing the way we think, right? It's not so much remembering, here I have to use a to and here I don't have to. That is too much sort of conscious thinking. We want it to be much more natural. So when you say, I need to call him, right? I need to call him, or he's going to call me. Right. So there's just that you literally
get in the habit.
Yeah, it's a habit.
Think about it.
Absolutely.
It becomes automatic.
Yeah, we don't want to think about rules necessarily here, because otherwise,
not at all.
it's just too slow.
No.
The process.
It's just
is
understanding why it happens. You say
exactly. No, that is true. That is true. No, the understanding is worthwhile. Absolutely.
Yeah. Why do I say call to my boss? It's because his Spanish is llamar a mi jefe.
Yeah, exactly.
And you're putting in that a in English too, and we don't need it in English.
That's right.
In this particular verb, as I say, sometimes you might, but there isn't a rule. Well, often in English they complain. No? There's no rules. It's just random. You say, well, yeah, unfortunately, sometimes you just have to know. You just have to remember.
Yeah.
But you just get into the habit, which is why we're going to do it as the masterclass, to get people filming themselves, and then in the sessions, just trying to use these very simple verbs. They're not complicated. They use all the time.
Yeah.
But use them correctly without that too. So we've done one, no?
Yeah.
You call someone.
Yeah, you call someone.
To someone.
That's right. That's right. And that's the other thing about these verbs. They're so common, aren't they? They're so common. So you have to get these right. You have to get it nailed down, como se dice en inglés.
Yeah,
you have to get it nailed down. You have to get it sort of cemented.
Clavado.
Yeah,
cemented.
Cemented in your brain. So the next one is also another verb that's like massively common, right? And so it's to ask, right? To ask. So, again, how common is that as a verb? It's just like crazy, right? But the difference between putting a to after that or not, like ask to my friend, no, that suddenly changes your level of English massively, right? I asked my friend, I want to ask my friend asked me, that there's, the construction there is vitally important, isn't it? It's really
you say, I don't know if I can do the class at that time. I'll have to ask my boss.
Yeah.
If it's possible, I have to ask someone. So you ask someone. So it's a direct object. So you don't put that ask to.
That's right.
But again, in Spanish, is preguntar a una persona.
Exactly.
So you've got the same personal a, if that's what it's called.
That's right.
And it's very difficult to break that habit.
It is.
And and there's such common verbs. So in any session, any class, at some point, nearly always, a student, a client will say, I had to ask to my boss.
Yeah.
I had to ask to a colleague.
Yeah.
Happens all the time. Someone happens all the time. So it's just changing that mindset. Keep wanting to say change the chip. Just say no. Ask me a question.
Yeah.
I need to ask someone something.
Absolutely. Yeah. Good. And let's go for that last verb, which is to help. Again, massively common verb. Really, really. I mean, how often are you going to use that when you're speaking English? All the time, just like the asking and the calling. And again, the to is not required. Is not required. It's superfluous.
It's redundant. Superfluous. Good word.
Yeah.
I was going to say redundant. Superfluous is better. You just don't need it. So you just say help someone.
Yeah.
Can you help me? Or I need to help this person. I've got to help this colleague prepare a presentation, not help to. So again, in Spanish, ayudar a person. You put that to. And there's probably a lot more, but these are such common verbs that, and in work situations, you're always going to be, you're calling people.
Yeah.
You're helping people, colleagues, whatever. And you're, what's the other? I've forgotten the other one.
You're asking. That's right.
You always got to ask people things.
Yeah, all the time.
Such common talking about work.
Yeah.
And in life in general, but particularly in office work situations with colleagues. Asking for help, helping people, calling people, etc. So it's just changing that, getting that into your mind that I just call someone, I ask someone, I help someone.
Exactly.
No need for that to in there.
No. And so that's where the challenge is. That's the challenge here this week is to obviously the verbs are easy. The verbs, that's not a problem, but we just want to avoid that so very natural slip into using those prepositions incorrectly. Okay, we're not going to make it confusing by saying sometimes you're going to use twos. With this one you use two, this other one you don't use two. We're going to make it super simple with these three verbs that you can't use the two. Right.
Maybe another session we might do the ones you do need to say two.
Absolutely. Yeah, that is going to be important too as well, obviously. But in this particular case, we just want it to become more intuitive, more natural, more the moment that you say those verbs, you're not going to use that preposition to, right? And so
fluency, so you're fluent in the sense you don't have to think about it; it just comes out naturally.
Yeah.
So you got to practice it. Practice makes perfect, as we always say, which is true.
Yeah.
Absolutely. And there is the challenge.
That is the challenge. Yeah.
Is basically tell a story. It doesn't have to be true. In fact, you might need to make it up. Good phrasal verb to make up So to invent and try and give us a sentence or a couple of sentences, maybe in a work situation, probably. And try to use those three verbs, help, call, and ask. And don't put the two.
That's right.
You may have to film yourself 3 times, 4 times, because I suspect people are going to put it in there and go, oh, no, I said 2.
That's right.
And then we'll practice
for sure
it in the live session.
And that process in itself is really, really fantastic, isn't it? It's like, you know, you record yourself, you make the mistake. You record yourself, you make the mistake. And then the third time you don't make the mistake, right? So that's the process. I mean, you know, in the fluency session, you will also get that. But maybe not quite as well, because you won't analyze certainly we will try, you know, when you get
we'll try to correct you.
Yeah, try to correct you.
Somebody not conscious you're even saying it.
Yeah, absolutely.
We'll say, you just said 2. Oh, did I?
Exactly.
Whereas obviously you film yourself, you play it back, go, oh, I said 2, I'll have to do it again.
Yeah, exactly.
So it's a laborious process, but it's actually a very useful one.
It is, yeah.
Which is why we encourage you to do those videos, and then we will comment on them.
Absolutely.
Or I will comment on them.
Absolutely. Good, Alistair. Thank you very much. Really nice as usual. Hopefully this challenge will be, an interesting one for our fluency community members. It seems easy, right? Like from the outside, it seems easy, but there is some skill involved here, and you
have to be creative. So think, how can I think of a situation that I can describe quite briefly that gets those 3 verbs into that situation?
Absolutely.
So it's probably not going to be real. It might be, but invent. Don't worry. It doesn't have to be a real anecdote.
Absolutely.
So if you can get help, and the real art of it is you can do it shorter. If you can get it literally in a sentence, those 3, that would be brilliant.
Absolutely.
And you can make it a bit longer if you want, of course.
Yeah. Exactly. Good. Alistair, thank you very much. Really amazing. Hopefully everybody knows what they're doing, and we'll be looking forward to those videos and doing the live sessions. So
as always,
I'll see you again next week. All right.
Cheers.
All right. See you then. Bye-bye. See you.